We're on. Okay, good morning, everybody. Sorry we're starting a little late this morning. Today is December 6th. It's about 9:06, and you're at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. Thank you all for being here. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll ask you to remain standing for our invocation by Rabbi Shalom Bachner from the congregation Beth Shalom.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. I invite everyone to take a deep breath and try to feel centered and grounded. And I ask that together we create a spiritual intention for this meeting. We are grateful to the beyond name oneness of the source of all life, the divine presence of many names and many peoples, and we say thank you for the gift of this day. Thank you for the many blessings in our lives. May these minutes of centering ourselves, of finding our breath and noticing our heart and our intellect guide us as we enter into the details of this agenda and duties. We know that these are challenging times. Intense political division, hurtful rhetoric, hate speech, and actual violence have become all too common in our world and our nation. My own community stands alert as anti-Semitic acts rapidly increase across the country, including in this county, leaving people frightened and even unsure about their long-term future here. None of this is normal or healthy, yet we all have agency. We all have the power to change the narrative, to improve our society, to make a difference. Here in Stanislaus County, we see the inspiration when people learn about and from each other. We can see a future where, in the words of the Bible, you shall lie down and no one shall terrify you. We are a region where many faiths and communities live side by side in peace and with tolerance. We need to ensure that this is who we continue to be. I ask that we all recommit ourselves to respectful dialogue, interfaith fellowship, building bridges across the political and ethnic divides, and engaging in acts of loving kindness. May we embrace the true diversity of this community and maintain and grow the connections and relationships that are at the heart of government, society, and the human experience. In the words of the Jewish prayer book, our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our government. Pour out your blessings upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. And so we pray, and we ask that this county, its governments, its leaders and advisors, and all who exercise rightful and just authority are blessed. And may all who live here dwell in goodness and blessings, respect for diversity, and work together to make this a better place and a better world for all. Amen.
Okay, Rabbi, thank you very much. That was great. We are going to start off this morning with a presentation regarding tobacco prevention. And Ricky Bispo, we're going to let you start off here. And I think I'm going to come down there.
Morning, Ricky.
Good morning.
How are you, Ricky?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Good morning, Chairman Withrow and the Honorable Board of Supervisors. My name is Ricky Bispo, and I'm here with my director, Nancy Davis, and my colleagues, Charmaine Monti, Elizabeth Escalante, and Rachel Valenzuela. We're here from the Stanislaus County Office of Education's Prevention Programs Department to announce the winners of the Red Ribbon Week Best Decorated, Most Spirited Schools contest. Before we begin, we would like to express our utmost gratitude to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors for the opportunity to make these announcements and to highlight our winners in these esteemed chambers. Thank you. Red Ribbon Week began in 1985 as a remembrance and tribute to Drug Enforcement Administration agent Enrique Kiki Camarena Salazar when he was kidnapped and murdered by the drug traffickers he was investigating in Mexico. Over the years, Red Ribbon Week has become a national awareness campaign highlighting the dangers as well as the positive alternatives to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Each year, students, school site staff, parents, and community members all work together to ensure a successful week. Awareness building happens through assemblies, coloring contests, academic lessons, community presentations, and much more. We are especially excited this year because we were able to host the traditional version of the Red Ribbon Week contest, where schools participate as a whole and everyone comes together to put up decorations and participate in the activities. An assistant principal from Walnut Grove School in Patterson expressed a sentiment that we feel sums up the experience this year, saying, quote, "We are looking forward to you visiting our campus. Our student, family, and community involvement in planning and preparing for your visit have been overwhelming, and we are so appreciative of it as it brings some normalcy and traditions back when we most need it." We could not agree more. And though a return to some normalcy looks different for everyone, the positive effects of being able to connect with students, coworkers, and fellow community members cannot be overstated. As an organization and as a team, we are filled with gratitude at having been able to host the contest in this format again. We're also pleased to announce that this year, thanks to a very generous donation from our partners at Sutter Health Memorial Medical Center, we have the honor of providing awards to the winning schools. And so we are here today to honor the winners of the Stanislaus County Red Ribbon Week Best Decorated, Most Spirited Schools Contest, and would like to thank the schools who are here with us today. Each of them not only met the minimum scoring criteria, but absolutely surpassed the committee's expectations. Each winning school will receive a certificate from the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors, a certificate from the Office of U.S. Representative Josh Harder, a certificate from the Office of California State Senator Susan Telemontes Eggman, and a Red Ribbon Contest winner's plaque and certificate from the Stanislaus County the Stanislaus County Office of Education. Let's go ahead and bring up our winners. When your school's name is called, please go ahead and come on up and receive your award. And so beginning with the elementary division, we have in third place, Walnut Grove.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a picture. We're going to get everybody up here for a picture. Let's let you guys all line. Okay, Walnut Grove. I'm keeping track of this. This is District 5. All right, so District 5 gets the first one. Okay. All right, and so in second place, we have Apricot Valley Elementary School. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, and this is another District 5. And then in first place, we had Carol Fowler Elementary School.
It's called a sweep, Terry.
District 5 again, okay.
Okay, moving on to the middle school junior high division, we have in third place Turlock Junior High.
Okay, thank God, District 2.
In second place, we had Cardozo Middle School.
That's District 1.
Okay, District 1.
All right, and then first place, Creekside Middle School.
Guess what district that is? District 5 once again.
We got a bunch of artists in this room.
Okay, and then last but not least, for the high school division, we had in third place a Denair High School. And actually, I'm not sure. Oh, yes, Denair High School.
Okay, District 2.
In second place, we had Enox High, and I don't think Enox was able to join us today. Yeah, Enox High School. And then in first place, we had Houston High School.
Guess which district that is.
There was no District 4, but I accept the results as certified.
Yeah. I'm going to ask for a recount.
Congratulations again to all of our winners, and a huge, huge thank you to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors, Sutter Health Memorial Medical Center, Stanislaus County Health Services Agency, and the Stanislaus County Office of Education, and all of the students, school staff, parents, and community members who came together to participate in and support the contest this year. Red Ribbon Week is about more than simply preventing tobacco, alcohol, and other drug abuse. It's also about showing students the importance of and how to live a healthy life. Because after all, healthy young people contribute to creating a healthy community for Stanislaus County. Thank you again for your time, and we wish everyone a great, happy, and healthy holiday season.
Hey, Ricky, if next year, really quick, if you could bring some pictures from the decorations, I think
Oh,
that would be
absolutely.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
We do that. That would be, we could have a slide deck and put up there.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great.
You can do that.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Houston and Denair.
Okay, Ricky, thank you very much. That was great, and thank all of you for your participation. And for those who are keeping track, District 5 had 4, District 2 had 3, District 1 had 2, and District 3 and District 4 got wiped out. We were 0. So. Okay, thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to move on to our public comment portion of the meeting, and we'll let everybody kind of clear out here for a second.
right there.
Perfect. Okay.
I sent Patrice a message. I said,
Perfect, okay. All right, very good. All right, we're going to go on to our public comment portion of the meeting. This is a portion of the meeting that anybody could speak about any item that is not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak about a specific item on the agenda, you can do that also when we come to that item. And so I have 3 speaker cards for just in general, and then we have a couple specific ones also. So we'll start off with Stephen Morrow this morning. Stephen. Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
Mr. Chairman, I'm doing fine. Thank you. And for the record, I live in District 5.
Okay.
So I'm very happy with today's
You
results.
scored today, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. Today I'm going to comment on just a couple of items. First thing is COVID still continues to evolve, but we cannot panic every time we see a new variant come out, because it's really similar to the flu and the common cold, which continue to develop new strains, and we don't panic when those happen, and we have to do the same thing with COVID. Now, that doesn't mean we need to stop doing the smart things that we've learned in the last 3 years. Covering our cough, washing our hands, using the sanitizers, all those are good things, and we just need to continue to do that and just be smart and reasonable. The second thing I was going to comment on is about the election. I know Ms. Lindler is going to be giving a report later today, but I just have some general things. First off, to those who didn't win, thanks for trying and then accepting the results, because it's never pleasant to lose at anything. So now to those who won, congratulations. But now it's time to roll up the sleeves and let's get to work. So, and I've said this before this body, we get a lot more done when we shake hands with each other rather than point fingers at each other. And losing an election doesn't mean we need to suspend parts of the Constitution. Fortunately, our founding fathers wrote the Constitution so that one person would not have the authority to do that. Once again, we just have to be reasonable and sensible. And last thing is, in the last meeting, some concerns were raised about how quickly the election results are finalized. And I'd like to see the results finalized as quickly as possible, like anybody. However, we can all help the process a little bit in the next election by, when you get your ballot, research your issues, fill it out, and then turn it in early. Because the earlier we get them in, the earlier that Ms. Lindler and her staff can process and verify the signatures so that the ballots are ready to run through the tabulation machine right at the official closing of the polls. If we wait until the last minute, even though that is our right to wait until the last minute, it just slows the whole process down, because then the ballots have to be verified after Election Day, and that just slows everything. And we have to count every ballot carefully, because in this election we did have some very, very close races, and it just took weeks to get all the votes counted. Once again, we just have to be reasonable and try to do the best to help the process along. Thank you very much for your time.
Stephen, thank you. Okay, next up we have Celestia Love. Celestia, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm going to have you grab that mic and get it right in front of you there. Perfect.
Okay. This young man right here is my grandson, James, and he is why I'm here. I've come here before you today to voice my concerns and outrage for a system that can remove children from their homes based on lies and half-truths, and ask you for help to bring my grandson home. On November 3rd, my grandson James was born. His mother reached out to me and asked me if she and James could stay with us and if I would take care of him if she were unable to. She was facing some legal challenges and thought she might be incarcerated. I agreed and told her we would have to do it legally, though, so I could have the ability to put James on my insurance at work, and when she got her life together, she would have to go back through the courts for him to be returned to her legally. She was agreeable to this. There was a verbal agreement for guardianship of James between his mother and me. On November 4th, Ms. Mason visited my home while I was at work. She is a CPS worker. She didn't make contact with anyone at the home at that time and left her card. I called her and she wanted to come out and inspect the house, but I was working. I asked if she could come the next day so I could make arrangements with my boss. I also let her know that I had previously been approved as a foster parent for another grandchild and that he was grown now. She asked me if I had everything I would need for the baby, and I told her Helena, James's mother, would give me the things she had. She informed me that I could not use any of her stuff. I took money out of savings and purchased diapers, bottles, formula, a car seat, a bassinet, and clothes for the baby. Everything was set up when she came except for the car seat being installed in my car. James's mother and I both informed Miss Mason that she had agreed to give legal guardianship to me as she had some legal issues pending and wanted to ensure that the baby was in a safe place. Miss Mason was also informed that Helena could stay with me until she had an outcome of her legal status and could find suitable housing. Miss Mason's comment to me when I told her that Helena and I had an agreement for legal guardianship was, "It better happen by tomorrow." Legal guardianship is not that fast through our court system, even when all parties are in agreement. Additionally, a verbal agreement is still valid and legal, even if it hasn't been through the court. My grandson was removed from his mother's custody for no reason. She had a place to live, both she and James tested negative for drugs, and she was not a threat to her son. Miss Mason came to my home on 11/5/22. My daughter and I were both required to take urine drug tests, which we both passed. My house was clean. We had everything we needed for James. There was a detention hearing right after she came to my house, and I was part of that. During the detention hearing, Ms. Mason stated that my home was clean, but she didn't know if that was its normal state. I previously was a foster parent of a preteen, and the CPS was at my house monthly for almost 2 years. She was made aware of my previous foster parent status, but didn't even bother to check any of the reports before making assumptions about my home. She also claimed that I said I would love to take my grandson, but worked long hours. What I conveyed to her was that I worked long hours, but had made arrangements with my employer to work from home several days a week, and that I had already secured child care with my daughter-in-law, who was a stay-at-home mom, and of 2, and backup child care with another stay-at-home mom that I have known for many years. The detention hearing resulted in refusal to let my grandson come home. When my family asked why CPS staff said that another social worker would provide that information to us, there was no good reason why my grandson shouldn't have been with his family. After receiving the court papers for removal of my grandson, I was appalled at all the lies and statements taken out of context that were used to legally kidnap my grandson. I am a person of great integrity, and it was hard for me to wrap my brain around the absolute untruths told by the agency. How can anyone with no integrity, who would blatantly lie and intentionally take things out of context, twisting them into what they want them to be in a position of power over the lives of families and innocent children? I filed a formal letter of complaint at the state level, because you don't ask the fox to guard the hen house, and personally delivered a copy to Amanda Sharp, Stanislaus County CSA Director, by leaving it at the front counter. I also sent a copy to another CPS worker I had spoken with. Ms. Villa replied telling me she had forwarded my letter to her supervisors. The state replied saying I needed to address this at the county level. To date, no one has contacted me regarding my letter of complaint. I have copies for all of you of that letter of complaint.
That's okay. We'll give you another. Are you getting close? I'm sorry, Celeste.
I am.
Okay,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. That's okay.
In the meantime, in an effort to get James with my family, I applied to be foster parent through the RFA process. I attended all the classes and provided the necessary references. Gary, an RFA worker, came out to my house to give me a packet of papers. I also informed Gary that I had been a foster parent previously. My grandson, my brother, and I were all fingerprinted as required. When the DOJ report came back, I received a letter from Gary saying that my brother and I had to address the attached report and had a limited amount of time to complete. I called repeatedly and left message after message for Gary, as it didn't include an attachment. Furthermore, I expressed my concern to him that I would get a hit from the DOJ, but nobody could find any paperwork because it was a misdemeanor conviction from 1990 and from my previous foster parent status. The records were purged because of no additional criminal activity. He said he'd pull my old case and see what he could find. Then I called back to see what I was to do because I had already had an exemption, and I never got any response from him. The next time I spoke with Gary, he informed me that my brother and I needed references now to deal with the criminal aspects, and they had to be people who knew about our crimes and what we have done to address it. Gary also made it clear that my approval chances were slim to none because his director didn't sign off on any criminal history. My criminal history was a misdemeanor theft charge from 1990, for which I spent a year on probation, paid restitution, and worked in the law library and cemetery. My brother's criminal history is lengthy, but there were no new cases for over 14 years. All of my brother's crimes were property crimes due to his drug use. There was no violent offenses of any kind. My brother has been...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know this is difficult for you to come down here and do this, so I thank you for doing this, but we do limit to 5 minutes. But we are taking notes, and we are going to contact you and discuss this more. Is that okay?
That would be fine
Okay.
with me because I will not stop fighting for my grandson.
Well, I totally understand, and I appreciate you coming down. Like I said, I know how hard this is, and we have people here who are going to reach out to you, and we'll see what we can do.
Can I leave the letters that...
You most certainly can, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Celestia, thank you for coming down here, and good luck with everything you're going through.
Stop is at the state level. Believe me, I will not stop fighting for my grandson.
I don't blame you. Okay, we will get in contact with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming down. Okay. Okay, thank you, Celestia. Okay. Last one I have, speaker card anyway, is Katie Patterson from South San Joaquin Irrigation District. Katie, good morning. How are you?
Well, thank you. All right. Good morning, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment to your board today. My name is Katie Patterson, and I'm the Public and Government Relations Manager for South San Joaquin Irrigation District. I'm here before your board today to share with you the progress that SSJID and the county has made in regards to negotiating the license agreement for Woodward Reservoir, a process that began in June of this year. As a condition of this license agreement between Stanislaus County and SSJID, the agreement allows for parties to negotiate new or modified terms or for SSJID to provide written notice of our intent to terminate the agreement effective on January 1st, 2025 by January 1st, 2023. Since June, SSJID has been working with your staff and have met on 4 separate occasions. We appreciate the effort by your staff as it has taken a considerable amount of time to gather and provide SSJID with financial data relevant to the operation of Woodward Reservoir. Unfortunately, this delay has resulted in a negotiation timeframe being significantly shortened. Our board has requested what we believe to be a fair request, an extension of the negotiation timeframe from January 1st, 2023 to July 1, 2023, to allow both parties and our governing boards ample time to comment, make revisions, and proposed amendments as necessary. Your staff has indicated that the county is not inclined to agree to such an extension. However, recently staff indicated that they are willing to accept a 3-month extension. We appreciate this gesture and commit to taking this proposal back to our board and working with the county to address this before the year's end, to avoid SSJID having to issue a letter of termination, an outcome we're seeking to avoid. SSJID values our long-standing relationship with your board and the county and hopes that both parties can see the value of extending this extension in this discussion. Over the next few days, SSJID will be reaching out to your staff to schedule meetings and to discuss this in further detail. I have provided copies here for your clerk of the board, and these are the most recent letters between the county and SSJID for you. And if you have any specific questions, please reach out to me directly or our general manager, Peter Rietkirk. I appreciate your time this morning.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Okay, that's the last speaker card that I have. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak during public comment? Come on down. How are you?
Surviving the game. My name is Greg Chatham, folks. I'm more here to speak to the public, not these trusted servants. But I have a lot of problems. I recently found Jesus Christ again, trying to bring him back into politics because I feel like that's where we lost, was when we left him behind. So a lot of people don't like to talk about politics and religion, but I notice it's a conservative valley, but at the same time the brown man and the black man's being held down. I know it's a running joke, but it's actual reality where I come from. So I've been frequenting the airport district because I live at the Modesto Gospel Mission. I sleep on the chapel floor. I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself. I'm actually, I got a good career. Not trying to brag here, but I just implore the county to do more than they're doing. I know you all represent your districts, but if we could not make it about race or the pay-to-play system, that'd be great. We love weed, but all the fentanyl and methamphetamine stuff, if you could leave that to the side for the valley, that'd be greatly appreciated. America.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Okay, anybody else? Any other, okay, seeing none, we will move on to our consent calendar. Okay, and then we have a few things going on with the consent calendar today. We're going to, item B9.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Please, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we would like to remove item B9 from today's consent calendar. We've determined it's no longer necessary to bring that item before the Board of Supervisors. So please go ahead and remove item B9.
Okay, so we will pull B9, and then we also are going to pull for comment B14 and B17. And so why don't we look at everything besides B14 and B17 with B9 off. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, let's go to B14. And I think, Chance, you'd like to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take a moment to express a sincere form of gratitude to Senator Anna Caballero. As many of you are aware, the Bonita Pool Project out in Crow's Landing has faced some uphill battles over the years. We originally had the money secured through grants and such, but with the cost of living, cost of inflation, it ballooned the cost of the project above the grants that we originally received, and therefore we had to give the grants back to the state. But luckily for us, we had a champion in the state legislature. Senator Anna Caballero came to our need, came to our rescue in a sense, and got us back the money to secure for this pool project that will be vital for District 5, vital for our West Side residents, and more specifically vital for the community of Crow's Landing. So again, I applaud Senator Anna Caballero for all of her hard work for us, and just a sincere debt of gratitude. And thank you to our Parks Department as well. I know you guys will do a great job in executing this project in the long run. So thank you, Senator Anna Caballero.
Okay, thank you, Chance. That's great to get that going. Okay, and then I'm going to move on to B17 really quick. I just wanted to pull this for a second. And Donna, sorry, I sent you an early morning text here. I apologize for this. This is no big deal. It's an accounting thing. It's a nerdy accounting thing that I just want to point out. You know, we have, B17 is all about our first quarter report for the budget.
Yes.
And we really have no adjustments. I don't think I've seen that in probably the 12 years I've been here, that we have no adjustments, and we'll have some, I'm sure, in the second quarter. But we did have an adjustment with regard to values.
Right.
And it was about a $41 million adjustment to our, like our funds, our general funds, and specific other funds. And so I just wanted to point that out, because if someone was to look at that, and we have no report, we have a $41 million reduction. It seems kind of strange, but I thought maybe you could just explain exactly what's going on. I understand it, but I know it's an accounting thing to some
Right.
extent. Like I see,
But it's also a market thing.
It's a market thing, yeah.
It has to do with the investments and the value of those investments. We're happy to see the Federal Reserve improving the interest rates, because that means that investments and people on a fixed income have more of an income, more resources. On the other hand, it has an impact on existing investments, that the value is less than it was before, because a new investment that comes out at a higher rate automatically reduces the value of older investments at a lower rate. It's always been that way in the market. There are ups, there are downs, but we are typically a buy and hold county. We value safety and security above all other processes. It's important to us, but this is just on paper. And unless we are selling investments at a fire sale, which We see
Right.
no indication that that's going to happen.
Perfect. I just want to assure people, we have, how much money do we have in the Treasury? Just ballpark, just, I can't.
We have about $2 billion.
Okay, so the county holds about $2 billion. It's not just our money, it's the
No.
schools, it's all kinds of money
Reserves,
that we hold there. And
districts.
just so that everybody would know, we don't go out and invest in stocks and things that we have restrictions on to where that money can be invested. And one of the main areas it can be invested is bonds and treasuries and things like that.
Right.
And so as the interest rates go up in the market, these bonds and treasuries, their value goes down because people can invest somewhere else, as you said, and
Absolutely.
get a higher interest rate. So then what we have to do then is adjust on our balance sheet the value of these bonds, and they have gone down. That doesn't mean we're going to lose that money.
Right.
We have a $41 million adjustment. Doesn't mean we're going to lose $41 million. We will hold these investments until probably they mature.
Until they mature, and then we'll reinvest at a higher rate.
Right, and at that point, we will get all of our money, but we have to make these adjustments. Again, it's a
On
nerdy
paper.
accounting thing, the CPA up here boring everybody with this stuff. But I just want you guys to know that for anybody who looks at this...
You and I are the only ones who think this is fascinating.
That's right, I know. This is fun stuff. But I just want people to know that we're not out investing our money in stocks. and
Treasuries, agencies,
that we're
short-term
restricted.
cash instruments.
And as the interest rates go up, those things are affected. As the interest rates go down, the value of those go up, and the adjustment could be just the opposite if that were to happen. So that's all I wanted to point out. That's it. We don't need everybody. I'm sorry to cause the fire drill here.
No fire drill. We just
We are-
want you to know that we're actually all fascinated by this. And we had lined up Kashmir and Angelica both to talk at great length about fund balance if you'd like, and Jules here for the rest of the budget. So whatever you need.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to get everybody in here, but I just wanted to point that out, that's what's going on for somebody who
Every
looked
CPA
at
will
it.
be watching
That's
this
right.
tonight.
But it was interesting. That was a very interesting conversation, wasn't it? Okay, thank you guys very much. That's it? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on, and we'll just look for then a motion on B14 and B17.
I move to approve the two items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the rest of the calendar here, and we'll go to our first public hearing, item 6.1. And we will have Jeff Turksey, our sheriff.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Chairman. and
Jeff, how are you?
I'm good, and members of the board, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. So this ordinance that's coming before you today is in regards to Assembly Bill 481, which passed a little over a year ago regarding military equipment and law enforcement. I don't pontificate often, but this is one of the dumber bills to come out of Sacramento, so I'll throw that out there. Brooke, if you'd give us the next slide, please. All right, so what is Assembly Bill 481? Like I said, it passed a little over a year ago, September 30th of last year. The intention is to increase transparency, accountability, oversight of military equipment used within law enforcement, all with the interest of the public's welfare. It does require an annual report to the governing body, the board in this case. This is not it. That annual report will come most likely in the spring, assuming that you adopt this ordinance. And then, much like SB 54, there will be a public forum after we have the public hearing. Next, bro. These are the three departments that are impacted. Obviously, the sheriff's office, which is why you're hearing from me, and then the probation department and the district attorney's office as well. Unless you have questions, they will not speak today. Next. All right, so these are the equipment categories that are specifically outlined in the Assembly Bill. A couple of things I want to talk about: drones, robots. Obviously, we use drones specifically every day. Armored vehicles, we do not have tanks, contrary to some popular opinion, but we do have some law enforcement armored vehicles. You guys can read kind of all of the other categories, but I specifically want to bring your attention to the last one: any other equipment determined by the governing body. Now, I will say that we in the county have taken a relatively conservative approach to other equipment. I joined the military 32 years ago, and I was issued everything from underwear to swimsuits to raincoats to field equipment and so on. I'm reasonably confident that most of my staff wears underwear. It is not something that we inspect, so we are not defining that as military equipment. We are taking a fairly conservative approach to things that I think most people would consider to be military-style equipment, since literally everything that we use at the sheriff's office, from pens and paper on up, could be considered military equipment. Next. So why do we have this equipment? Specifically around a few different reasons. And it all has to do with public safety, right, for our community, and for staff safety. You know, command vehicles were on there. As you know, we have a variety of different command vehicles that allow us to view our drone footage at the scenes of critical incidents. Someday, we're going to be able to stream footage from either our aircraft or our helicopters into that command vehicle. But that allows us to have a better planned and safely executed operation to keep the community safe and to keep my staff safe. Less lethal options. There are a variety of less lethal weapons that we use they are just that. They are less lethal. They allow us to take someone into custody safely without greater risk to either the suspect or to my staff or other members of the public. We fund this through virtually every means out there, general funds, state or federal funds. Next. Policies. So each department has their own policy. Now, we are fairly synchronized here at the county level, but every law enforcement agency in the county will have its own. Turlock PD, Modesto PD series, and so on. So every law enforcement agency must have one. We'll define it. We've already talked about that a little bit. They have to have a coordinator and what their responsibilities are. We must have an inventory. The inventory is actually attached to the board item. Approval requirements, a complaint process, and coordination with other jurisdictions. And then the annual report, which I said will come back to you in the spring. Next, Brooke. So inquiries or complaints, like most things, there is very little that we are not willing to completely discuss with the public. If any member of the public has a question or concern, they can get on either the Sheriff's Department website, probation website, or the DA's website. They can reach out directly through that. They can review our policies. They can see everything about it on those websites. And then we will respond to them as soon as we possibly can with any specific inquiries. And the last one, Brooke. So how does this affect the county? If you, the board, approve this ordinance, we will be able to continue using this equipment, which is very valuable to our organizations and keeping our community safe. If you don't, we cannot. And there's a lot of things that will come to, if not a screeching halt, they will definitely slow down. And we will have to go about completely different ways, or come up with completely different ways to do things, which will be less efficient and less effective. And with that, my comments are concluded, pending your questions.
Very good.
And, Chief Ferreira is here, and Chief Cease is back here, too, should there be any questions for probation or the DA's office.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, any questions for Jeff or anybody else?
Can I just ask,
Vito.
since the list has been determined, I see in here, and was it the three of you or that made the list that determined? Or because it's not...
It was
okay.
A lot of time spent with county council and staff
Trying to
coming
figure
up
out.
with
Okay.
what that list should be.
I just want, okay.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Jeff. Okay, we'll look for any further comments, discussion, or a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Darn it, this is a public hearing. Okay, we will open the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to make a comment or questions? Seeing none, oh, Corinne, come on up. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Corinne Whitlow. Very last minute, just want to say, as a parent of young children and fentanyl very out there in our community, I believe the sheriff is doing a really, really good job of getting a hold on those things, and I believe he needs everything that he's listed to continue to do that, to keep our children safe, so please consider this.
Very good, thanks, Corinne. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board now for...
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, guys. Okay, we'll move on to item 6.2, our public hearing to consider Planning Commission recommendation. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Chairman Withrow, members of the board. I'm Angela Freitas, the county's planning director. With me is Emily Bass Knight and Christy Dowd.
Angela, hold on one second. I think they got to get that mic turned up a little bit for us here. There we go.
Good morning. Morning, Chair, members of the board. Angela Freitas, our County Planning Director. With me is Emily Bass Knight and Christy Dowd. Emily will be taking us through a presentation of the project that is before you.
Emily, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. All right. Good morning, Chair Withrow, members of the board, CEO Hayes, County Council Bowes, Emily Bass Knight, Assistant Planner, here to present rezone and tentative map application number PLN 2022-0026 Elmwood Estates. This is a request to rezone a 4.82 acre parcel from rural residential to planned development to increase the maximum building site coverage by 10% from 40 to 50% of the parcel. While the applicant proposes a deviation from the building coverage requirement of the RA zoning district, all other uses and development standards permitted in the RA zoning district, with the exception of building coverage, will apply to the project. As part of this request, the applicant proposes to create 17 single-family residential lots ranging in size from 8,000 to 10,594 square feet, and a 13,000 square foot stormwater basin expansion. This project is considered to be an infill development, as the existing site and surrounding area consists of residential uses. The project site is located at 3700 Story Road, between East Zeering Road and Walton Street in the community of Denair. The site has a general plan designation of low-density residential, a community plan designation of low-density residential, and a zoning designation of rural residential. The project is surrounded by single-family lots to the north and south, the Denair Community Service District facility to the west, and an agriculturally zoned ranchette parcel is to the east of the project site. The project site is currently improved with one single-family dwelling and an attached two-car garage. The remainder of the 4.82 acre parcel is vacant. As stated previously, the applicant is requesting to rezone the project site from rural residential to planned development to increase the maximum building site coverage and to create 17 residential lots and a stormwater drainage basin. Proposed Lot A, highlighted in the light blue there, will be used as the stormwater basin, which will be an expansion of an existing adjoining off-site basin located to the south of the project site, highlighted in dark blue. As part of the overall development plan, the proposed project includes a landscaping and tree planting plan. The applicant proposes to plant at least one tree along the frontage of each lot for a total of 29 trees. Landscape for the stormwater basin will consist of low water use plants. An alternative agricultural buffer has been requested by the applicant, consisting of a zero setback, 6-foot-tall wood fence along the eastern property lines of lots 15 and 16, and a 6-foot-tall chain link fence with privacy slats along the remaining eastern boundary of the project site to prevent trespassing onto the adjacent ag zone property. An 8-foot-tall block wall is proposed to replace an existing chain link fence with privacy slats that runs along the southern property line of the existing stormwater basin. This is the current stormwater basin located to the south of the project site. The stormwater basin is proposed to be expanded to the north and landscaped. Proposed lots 1 through 16 will each be developed with single-family dwellings. The existing single-family dwelling and attached two-car garage will remain on proposed Lot B. All of the proposed residential lots of the tentative map meet the width, depth, and minimum parcel size requirements of the rural residential zoning district. The project area will be subject to all standards under the RA zoning district, with the exception of lot coverage, which will be 50% rather than the existing 40% requirement. As part of this request, Romey Way will be extended north-south through the site, which will connect to a proposed cul-de-sac to the west, Harris Court. Here are pictures of the existing stub-outs on Romey Way to the south and north of the project site. Access and road frontage for the proposed project will be taken from Story Road, Romey Way, and proposed Harris Court. Proposed Lot 6 through 8 and proposed Lot B, which has the existing dwelling, will have access and road frontage onto Story Road. Harris Court will serve proposed lots 1 through 5 and 9 through 12 with access, and will extend east of the Romey Way intersection to provide connectivity for future residential development east of the project site. Proposed lots A and 13 through 16 will have frontage onto Romey Way. Full road frontage improvements will be installed, including streetlights, curb, gutter, sidewalk, matching pavement, and storm drainage facilities. The applicant will annex the development into Community Service Area Number 21, the Ryopel and the Denair Highway Lighting District, to ensure future maintenance and eventual replacement of the storm drainage system and facilities, block wall, and any landscaped areas. The project is currently within the boundaries of the Denair Community Service District and will be serviced with water and sewer services from the Denair CSD. As mentioned previously, this project is considered to be an infill development, as the existing site and surrounding area consists of residential uses. The early consultation referral from the project was sent to the Denair MAC. However, the referral was not placed on the MAC's regular meeting agenda. However, in response to the referral, one of the MAC members sent staff a comment letter on the project requesting duplexes to be incorporated into the design of the subdivision. Due to the project site's general plan land use element designation of low-density residential, which is intended for single-family dwellings, duplexes would require an amendment to the general plan and community plan designations to allow for a multifamily unit, which is not included in this project request. Because accessory dwelling units are permitted uses in single-family residential districts, the developer has addressed the MAC member's comment by providing illustrative floor plans and elevations for a single-family dwelling with an attached ADU to be located on proposed lots 6 through 8 with frontage onto Story Road. If approved, the developer anticipates final improvement plans for the proposed project to be submitted by August of 2023 and construction to begin 6 to 8 months following approval of the final improvements. In response to the initial study referral, the project was presented at the August 9th, 2022 Denair Municipal Advisory Council meeting. During the Denair MAC meeting, county staff presented an overview of the project and responded to questions from the community and their concerns related to traffic and safety along Romey Way, water availability and quality, flooding at the corner of intersections within the area, maintenance of parks and parkland dedication, existing storm drainage basin concerns, and fear that the new basin will not be properly maintained. Concerns were also raised about the possibility of two-story houses developed next to their backyards and the desire for privacy fencing to be installed at the developer's expense. Ultimately, the MAC voted 5-0 to recommend project approval, including a request that a development standard be placed on the project to require MAC consultation on the final landscape plan for the expanded drainage basin. A development standard has been applied to the project reflecting the MAC's request. Following the Denair MAC meeting, staff received various emails, calls, and letters from 5 surrounding residents, raising similar concerns that were brought up during the meeting, specifically concerns related to traffic and safety, primarily regarding the proposed extension of Romey Way, development standards, notification to surrounding residents, and on potential impacts from the project on public services, biological resources, and to surrounding ag uses. In response to comments requesting access for the subdivision from Story Road rather than extending Romey Way, the County Public Works Department has indicated there would be issues with siting access off Story Road due to the proximity of the existing Kersey Road intersection to the west of the project site. The project was originally scheduled to be considered by the Planning Commission on September 1st, 2022, but was continued to September 15th, 2022, to allow staff additional time to address the input received from surrounding residents regarding their concerns over the traffic, development standards, notification, public services, and biological and agricultural resources. The concerns expressed prior to the September 15th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting were addressed in the staff report prepared for the project and during the Planning Commission public hearing. At the September 15th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, on a vote of 5-0, the Planning Commission recommended approval with a motion to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve the proposed project with a restriction allowing for only single-story dwellings to be developed and an amendment of Development Standard Number 15 to allow for a 6-foot-tall good neighbor fence. Here's a map of the location of the properties owned by the 5 respondents, highlighted in pink on the map, within the adjacent area who called, emailed, and submitted letters prior to the September 15th Planning Commission hearing. The Planning Department also received additional comments from Brad Johnson from Salida. Following the September 15th Planning Commission hearing, staff received a petition in opposition of the project signed by 39 individuals representing both property owners and residents within the community of Denair. And those properties are highlighted in yellow on the map. One property listed on the petition is not reflected on the map due to the distance from the project site. The property is located 0.27 miles to the northwest of the project site at 4225 North Grattan Road. The petition specifically states opposition to the extension of Romey Way and construction vehicles driving through the neighborhood. Various emails and letters from 3 of the surrounding property owners and 2 individuals outside of the community of Denair were also received following the Planning Commission hearing. While many of the concerns raised are the same as those already identified prior to the September 15th Planning Commission meeting, the following new concerns or variation to the initial concerns have been raised. Notification of the August 9th Denair MAC meeting in violation of the Brown Act, the adequacy of staff's evaluation of impacts to biological resources and hydrology and water quality within the Environmental Review and Planning Commission staff report, and the availability of water to serve the development. The current notification practice for MAC meetings consists of the MAC chair or secretary sending out a notice via email to their distribution list, which includes any interested parties, and the Denair Unified School District, which posts a notice for the meeting outside the district office. The county's community manager posts the meeting agenda to the county's MAC website 72 hours prior to the meeting. The Denair MAC's August 9th 5-0 vote to recommend project approval, as well as the concerns voiced by the community members in attendance at the MAC meeting, are captured in the September 15th Planning Commission staff report. An item to set the public hearing for the Planning Commission's recommendation to be brought to the Board of Supervisors was continued at the October 4th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting due to concerns regarding the existence of vernal pools and a request for a biological assessment. A biological assessment of the project site, prepared by Moore Biological Consultants, was submitted on October 14th for the project, which evaluated potential project-related impacts to vernal pools and species associated with a vernal pool habitat, as well as special status biospecies including, but not limited to, the state-threatened Swainson's hawk and the state species of special concern burrowing owl. The biological assessment found that no potentially jurisdictional waters of the U.S., including vernal pools, seasonal wetlands, or other aquatic habitats, were observed on the project site. The biological assessment concluded that it is unlikely that special status plants occur on the site or that Swainson's hawk nests near or forage on site due to the scarcity of occurrences of Swainson's hawks recorded in the project vicinity, size of the site, and the proximity to developed parcels. Further, the biological assessment found that other special status birds, including the burrowing owl, will not be expected to nest within the project site. The biological assessment included conservative recommendations regarding pre-construction surveys for Swainson's hawk, burrowing owl, and other nesting birds protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918, if construction commences between March 1st and September 15th. Staff is recommending the addition of development standards requiring pre-construction surveys for nesting birds, as recommended in the biological assessment prepared for the project. In response to concerns being raised about the time of year the biological assessment was conducted to identify vernal pools, Diane Moore, principal biologist at Moore Biological Consultants, has clarified in an email to staff dated November 21st, 2022, that vernal pools and seasonal wetlands can be identified by examining the topography of the project site and plant species on site, which can be identified year-round. Section 4, Biological Resources, of the CEQA initial study prepared for the project has been amended to reflect the information from the biological assessment. This is a view of the project site from the north side of Romey Way, looking across to the south side of Romey Way. This is a view of the project site from the south side of Romey Way, looking towards Story Road to the west. And the view here is looking across the project site to the east. Water availability to serve the project does not appear to be a development constraint for the proposed project, as the project site is located within the Denair CSD's current service boundary. The Denair CSD is in compliance with the state regarding groundwater sustainability, and the CSD has provided a letter indicating their ability to serve the project site with water services and will require the applicant to pay a fair share fee for future facilities for district services. Staff has been in direct contact with David Odom, district manager of the Denair CSD, on multiple occasions, and there is no indication that the district is unable to serve the project. The project was evaluated for consistency, and the Stanislaus County General Plan and Zoning Ordinance, including the site's general plan, land use, and Denair Community Plan designations of low-density residential, the sphere of influence policy, the open space elements, parkland dedication, and the agricultural elements, agriculture buffer policies. As proposed, the project will have a density of 4 units per acre, which will be consistent with the designation of low-density residential, which allows for a density of up to 8 units per acre. The project has the potential to develop up to a maximum of 17 accessory dwelling units across the project site. However, in accordance with California Government Code and County Code, maximum density restrictions are not to be considered when developing ADUs. Both the county's open space element of the general plan and Denair Community Plan require at least 3 net acres of parkland be provided for every 1,000 residents. Based on the number of lots being proposed, the developer will pay park in lieu fees prior to issuance of any building permit for a single-family dwelling. If the project is approved, the zoning designation of planned development will be consistent with the proposed general plan and community plan designation of low-density residential. The project proposes to amend the zoning designation from rural residential to planned development. Although the density proposed for the project would be consistent, the existing rural residential zoning district and general plan and community plan designations of low-density residential, the applicant is requesting a different development standard for lot coverage, which requires a change in the zoning district. The proposed PD zoning will include uses and development standards permitted in the RA zoning district, with the exception of building coverage, which will change from 40% to 50% of the parcel. Each proposed residential parcel will have access to a county-maintained road and complies with the RA zoning district's minimum parcel width, depth, and parcel size requirement. The resulting parcels will conform to the design standards of the county's zoning and subdivision ordinances. Pursuant to CEQA, the proposed project's initial study was circulated to interested parties and responsible agencies for review and comment. No significant effects were identified by responsible agencies. However, in order to address community concerns regarding biological resources on the project site, a biological assessment was performed and submitted on October 14, 2022 by Moore Biological Consultants. As mentioned previously, Section 4, Biological Resources of the CEQA initial study prepared for the project has been amended to reflect the language of the bioassessment conducted for the project. This additional language is considered to be informational in nature, and no significant effects were identified. As permitted by CEQA Guidelines Section 15073.5C, a recirculation of the initial study is not required. The amended initial study is provided as an attachment to the September 15, 2022 Planning Commission staff report, with amended text shown in italics and deleted text shown as stricken to reflect the information provided. A negative declaration has been prepared for approval, as the project will not have a significant effect on the environment. To conclude, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval, which includes the Planning Commission's recommended amendment to Development Standard Number 15 to lower the required fence height and incorporation of Development Standard Number 60, restricting development to single-story homes as worded in the agenda report. Since the September 15th Planning Commission meeting, staff has identified that the requirements for a payment of in lieu fees for parks and a per dwelling fee to the sheriff were inadvertently not specified in the development standards applied to the project. If the board approves the project, staff recommends the incorporation of development standards number 61 and 62 as worded within the agenda report for both the parks and sheriff fees, as well as development standard numbers 63 and 64 for pre-construction surveys for nesting migratory birds if construction commences between March 1st and September 15th. All findings required for approval of this project are incorporated into the staff recommendations provided for this item, which include findings regarding environmental review, the proposed rezone tentative map, findings regarding the agricultural buffer alternative, road improvements, and project approval. The rezone for this project is only required to allow for a 10% increase in the maximum building site coverage area. If the proposed project did not include the rezone, the project would only be capable of being denied if subsection F or G of the incorporated findings that relate to potential impacts to public health and substantial environmental damage and the design of the subdivision cannot be made. That concludes my presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions.
Very good. Emily, thank you very much, and Angela and Christy sitting down there. Any questions for staff before we, Supervisor Chiazza-Vito?
Thank you very much. A very detailed report in here, and it's a lot to read. Angela, I want to ask you about SB 9, first of all, because I don't think the public generally knows about the Home Act and the requirement, because we keep talking about ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and junior accessory dwelling units. Can you explain the difference between the two of those and how SB 9, it doesn't supersede, but if you meet all of your benchmarks, you're allowed to put in ADUs?
So the state of California has required that accessory dwelling units be allowed anywhere that you have single-family dwellings that are permitted. And along with that allowance comes junior accessory dwelling units, which are usually attached or within the unit. An accessory dwelling unit itself is restricted in size, so 1,200 square feet is generally the largest that you can get. With SB 9, oftentimes referred to as the duplex rule, it does allow for if a property owner owning a piece of property wants to establish a duplex, they can establish a duplex and they can also parcel the parcel. So there's kind of two different rules in play. There's just the state provisions for accessory dwelling units and then SB 9. So as with any parcel, these properties will be subject and allowed to further develop.
And so does that count against the 50% coverage, the 40 to 50% coverage?
The 50% will apply. There are some slight allowances with accessory dwelling units where you can look at different setbacks and different lot coverages under state law. But in general, any development is going to be 50%.
So, and then are those taken into account? Because I think there's a little more than 3 people per dwelling is what the expectation is. And based on park fees and other things, if people split, are they required to pay the difference because there's going to be an increase in people living? Potentially.
No, in the future, if there were splits, they're dealt with ministerially, and no, there would not be park fees attached to those.
Yeah, and the community plan area, which I don't think it was included, the area, but you can get it through LAFCO. How was that originally set? The community, Denair community plan, Denair community plan.
The Denair community plan is part of the county's general plan, and it was established, it was approved by this Board of Supervisors, and the last time that the Denair community plan was adopted was, I believe it was 2000, was when the Denair community plan, it was early 2000s. And there was a significant amount of public engagement that was done and outreach within the community to come up with the plan that was ultimately adopted.
And what would it take to change the plan boundaries?
It would be a general plan amendment to establish a new Denair community plan boundary.
And would it require a vote of the people to expand it?
With the Denair community plan, no, but if you wanted to go in and, so the Denair community plan does cover some lands where, so if you take the property to the east, it has a designation within the Denair community plan of low density residential, but it still has a zoning of A2 general ag because the county didn't change the zoning at the time that it adopted the Denair community plan. So if you were going to go establish a new Denair community plan, it already has a non-agricultural designation, so Measure E may not kick in, but you could not rezone it to allow for development under the Denair community plan without going through a vote of the public through Measure E.
Yeah, that would be the canal to go east of the canal on the right-hand side of the screen, right, out into the ag lands.
Well, the Denair community plan, so from this property east to the canal is in the Denair community plan, but that would require a Measure E vote.
Yeah. to change the exterior boundaries.
Correct.
I'm just looking, and the Keys Community Service District is, their sphere is exactly the same, from what I can tell, to the community plan, but their actual boundary, their current boundary is inside of that. And for them to expand it, they would have to go to LAFCO, correct? And-
Correct. And generally, those boundaries are smaller than the sphere of influence because they want a planning area for future growth.
Yeah, but they can serve with an out-of-boundary service agreement. They can serve
Correct.
that area. And that, I got these maps, but not that the rest of you have. I think it's always good for the public to understand this is within the boundaries. This is the Keys Community Service District. Has to give a will-serve letter for water and sewer, and they have done that. They do have the water, or they have said that they have the water and the sewer capacity to serve this subdivision currently.
Correct. County is not a service provider when it comes to water and sewer, so whenever we have development, we require will-serve letters that we obtain from whoever the service provider is, stating that they will and can serve, and they include any conditions that are required for that. And then we also do our due diligence and, reviewing, with LAFCO as far as service areas and making sure that there's capacity issues. And in this case, we have no indication that there are capacity issues for this development.
Okay. I think that's all. The home SB9 does limit it to 4 units per parcel too, correct?
It's 2 units per parcel. So if you were to subdivide the original parcel, you could have 2 on one side and 2 on the other, but you cannot have 4 on one parcel.
Yeah. So, but it's still only a maximum of 4 from the original parcel, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Vito. Anybody else? Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Angela, Emily, Christie, thank you for your report. There was a complaint in 2017 about flooding. With the addition of the stormwater basin, are those 2 basins going to be connected? And I guess the other question is, with the addition of the basin, will that help the other subdivisions on either side of the development?
The existing basin will be expanded, so it'll be all one basin, as can be seen by the picture at the top. They'll be connected, and then the basin for the project is only required to be calculated for the runoff for the project site, not for the residential development to the south. There was a concern about flooding. There was a dry well that was clogged. I believe the Public Works Department, after the MAC meeting for this project, went out and cleared that dry well. So it's working a lot better now.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Buck. Anybody else before we open the public hearing? Okay, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And I do have a couple speaker cards here. And of course, anybody else can speak if they like. If they haven't filled out a card after this, we'll start off with Kelly Marshall. Kelly, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So my name is Kelly Marshall, and I thank you for this opportunity to kind of address this new proposed development. I live at 3940 Story Road, right on the corner of Story and Ziering. I have also recently retired from California State University, Stanislaus. I was the director for many, many years as safety, risk management, and emergency management. So I have some safety concerns with the new development that's coming in. More importantly, traffic. I'm not opposed to the actual development site. I am concerned, though, with the additional traffic. We're talking about possibly 3 additional adults driving in and out of there. The Story Road is a half-mile long. The only stop sign on Story currently is at Walton, which would serve those coming and entering from the south off of Ziering, or excuse me, off of Monte Vista. At Ziering, I have regularly seen people, they fly down Story. They do not stop at the single stop sign there at Ziering Road. There is no other stop sign that services Ziering Road, so people also go approximately 40, 50 miles an hour. Denair does not have a sheriff's substation any longer. We had one many, many years ago. And so we've been told to call California Highway Patrol. We are serviced by those coming out of the Merced district, which is in Outwater. And they take some time, and of course, they're not there when there's a lot of traffic going back and forth. The other thing with the traffic is that those individuals that would be living on the site, the direct line to Denair Unified Schools is going up Story to Ziering Road, and then they go on over to the school district, the elementary school, the high school. Again, it's just the increased traffic flow. We've had several accidents, we've had several near misses on that corner, and so I would just like you to please take a look at the traffic that goes through that area. I also understand that there may be the possibility of another housing project off of Ziering and Arnold that may be in the near future or maybe in the late future. Again, it would just increase more traffic there at Story and Ziering. I think most of my other questions I had were addressed. I thank you very much for the opportunity. One other thing is I know that there will be an increase in tax revenue coming from these homes. I just ask that the board not put the cart before the horse when you're taking a look at some possible resources such as sheriff, fire. I know that we've only got, from my best understanding, is that there is one individual that's hired full-time for our volunteer fire department, and the increase of those coming in will also increase the need for any of those types of services. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, next one I have is Donald Regich.
Rice sandwich.
Brywich.
Brywich. Donald, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I did a little pivot over the weekend, and I'm hoping you have in front of you. I gave you it's December 6th, 2022 handout to accompany oral presentation to Board of Supervisors. I'm hoping that's what I'm going to be working off of. I hope you all have a copy of that in front of you. Okay, excellent. On page 8 of the Elmwood Plan, it says, while the basin is proposed to be landscaped and will not have fencing along the northern and western sides, the basin will not serve as a dual-use basin, unquote. The Planning Department is proposing that the Elmwood Stormwater Basin be similar to the rock-lined West Strand Ranch Storm Basin located at the very busy intersection of Lester and Main and Monte Vista in Denair. Two neighbors have told me that an Elmwood Estates 2 is coming soon to be built to the east of the 34-dwelling Elmwood plan you are approving today. Given the amount of open land to the east of Elmwood, there is easily room for another 34 dwellings and even more. I noticed that the Planning Department added an eastern stub out to the August 30-day plan that was not present in the April early comment plan. I suggest you coordinate your basin plans with neighbors to the east. To be clear, this request is regarding the storm basin and not a request for a park with playground apparatus, etc. So now I refer you to page 2. If a storm basin was to be built a few hundred feet from your house, which of these two would you prefer? The top one is the Main and Lester one. As you can see, that's got a rock bottom. And then the second one down below is the Riopel subdivision on Riopel Avenue. You can see there's a gentleman there throwing the ball for his dog. And if you flip over to page 3, here are two more examples of neighborhood storm basins in Denair. Here's one on Chica Avenue. Then there's Palm Estates on St. Simon Way. And then finally, on the next page, I show you a picture, which you've already seen in the presentation, of the current Romie Way storm basin. So my ask of you this morning is, if it was your neighborhood, which storm basin would you like to have? Now I want you to turn your attention to the petitioner signer's map on page 5. That's that map with all those little orange markings on it. Those represent people that signed the petition. When I was gathering signatures for the petition, a number of the signers had been to the August 9th MAC meeting just as I had been. We were told at the meeting that Kersey was a traffic problem and the reason why Harris was not being put through the story. We all scratched our heads. What was the big traffic problem with Kersey? From our neighborhood, if you want to ride a bike or even ride your horse downtown, as I've seen people do, The best route to take is Kersey. We don't need a high-dollar traffic study to figure this out. That is because everybody who lives there knows there's very little traffic on Kersey. Kersey is about as sleepy gets. It has 3 duplexes, 1 house, and the Denair Service District storage yard. So what is the real problem? We are left to speculate. But when Elmwood 2 happens, that means even more traffic in our hood. One of my neighbors told me yesterday, and I agree, if Harris connects to Story, 99% of the opposition to this plan goes away. So, in conclusion, I have 4 asks. The first one was the 6-foot-tall fencing. I brought this to the Planning Commission, and that's been passed through. You guys have already talked about that. Also, my second ask is the 2-story restriction, and we talked about that already. I'm in favor of that. My number 3 ask is a dual-use stormwater basin, and number 4, connect Harris to Story. And one more thing. After about 30 or 40 years, we finally got the drain fixed on Walton, thanks to Emily. So that's the first time we just had the rain, and that's the first time that street didn't flood. So, appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Donald. Okay, those are all the speaker cards I had. Is there anyone else? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, and Vito had a couple things that he was looking at that we've all gotten copies of here, up here too. So just, and they're available for anybody else that wants. Yeah. So, okay. Anybody else want to speak about this item before we close the public hearing?
I'm going to ask Dave to come down while we close the public hearing.
Perfect. Okay.
I just want to ask you about the basin, why the basin is configured the way it is, and
Do you want to close? Did you want to?
Oh.
Yeah, maybe we'll.
Well, I said when you're closed.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
So
sorry.
That's all right. No, Dave, stay here. So nobody else wants to speak. But that's good. We will close the public hearing. Okay, Dave, you're up.
Crap back my way back. Morning, Chair Withrow, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, County Council Bowes. Public Works did check. We don't have our own dual-use basin standards. City of Modesto does. And as an example, right in their standards, it says 3 to 10 acre basins have limited recreational opportunities. The combined size of this basin is a ½ acre. The example, Ryopal, is 2.1 acres to the north of it, and so it's 4 times the size of this basin. So there really isn't an opportunity to do really much of any kind of recreation. So that's it would provide limited, very limited. I think. Oh, and we did check the calcs, both the perk and the size, and so the basin is sized appropriately for this new development.
I'm not even talking about that. I was just speaking to Mr. Wright, which is on aesthetics, looking versus, is there a plan then? Because if it's only ½ an acre and you have to go and mow it, obviously there's all kinds of issues that come with that. If something is developed to the right, I see those 2 purple lots that potentially, because that's where the drainage, if they develop that would make the basin bigger in the future. Is there plans, or you said we don't have standards?
Now, for dual-use basins, we use the City of Modesto's.
We use, and what's their standard? What's the minimum size?
They're saying that basically under 3 acres, they don't do them.
Under 3 acres. But we did it in Denair at 2 acres, right?
Right, and it looks good.
Yeah. I know it's in Keys. I've seen lots of them, and they are, even if the use isn't necessarily there, I think one of those was right at the end of a subdivision. One of the pictures, I'm assuming that was in Denair, Mr. Rywich?
Those 2 pictures, all those pictures are from Denair.
Yeah. There's one that looks like it's an empty lot at the end of a cul-de-sac that's smaller.
Right.
I'm just asking.
Right, so if those 2 came in as, or even 1, we would add area to that basin. And then at some point, it probably would be big enough to say, all right, well, let's grass it and use it as a small park, or at least a place for people to
But the
kind of throw a
homeowners-
ball for a dog. This is not going to be bought up big enough for really much of anything, other than
But I
some
think what you're asking,
low-impact
even if
development.
it wasn't a park,
Landscape.
if you still grass it, make it look, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how to,
I have a copy of the landscaping plan. It's kind of xeriscape right now is what they're proposing. So not much watering.
If I can add in, while we don't have a dual-use basin park standard, the park in lieu of fee kind of triggers at 52 lots, and that's why when you look to the north to Riopelle, they did develop that small park because they were over 52 lots. So in this case, when the land to the east develops, if and when it develops, because it is subject to Measure E restrictions, that is something we would look at, the possibility of expanding this basin to the east, and depending on what the development is on that end, then we could end up converting this to a park or adding a park feature to it at that time.
all right.
Okay, all right, good.
Did you want to talk about the intersection at all?
I guess you can address that. I was looking that, because the traffic is going to use Romney Way and go north or go south to Walton or north. So the speed of people going to Ziering, there's going to be an increase in traffic, but it's going to be limited because they're going to come out on, it's the road there, north of Walton, not so bad with, it's Hillsdale. Because you're always, the toughest part to mitigate is speed, right? And people drive faster, and you are absolutely right, Kelly, that we go to the Denair Mac and the CHP is there every single month, and we give them an avenue, Grattan Road coming into town, people are speeding, and they show up and they write 2 citations. They usually write them to 2 Denair people, by the way, and I usually hear from them. And then they have to go do traffic enforcement somewhere else. So that is a frustrating component when people are using, driving too fast. But it seems like on this site, because they're not coming out on Story, it doesn't give them a running start. And there's only 3 houses on Story, or with ADUs. So anyways, but go ahead.
It violates, so the proposed, if it had access, the site to Story, the intersection would be within less than 250 feet of Kelsey, and that violates county standards. And the reason why that's important is when you have offset intersections too close to each other, there's too many conflicting movements and they're uncontrolled. You can't do an all-way stop there. It's too much, and so that's why we have the intersection standards that the board has adopted in the standard specifications for public works. So it would not work based on intersection distance, and it's an offset intersection, and they are not as safe as a teed-up intersection.
And what does it take in the future to put a 3-way stop at Kersey and Story?
It would have to meet traffic warrants. So there's an engineering study that's necessary, and if the volumes on both legs warrant, then we will recommend the board approve an all-way stop there.
And that requires, there's accidents, it's a number of accidents, there's other things included.
Right.
We've done many of these, many intersections. Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, we've closed the public hearing. Sure, Kelly, if you, yeah, come on. I don't know if we have to reopen the public hearing, but we'll let you talk.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So Kersey itself isn't an issue. I mean, that's already kind of been addressed. There's no traffic on Kersey whatsoever. But if you think about the traffic that will have to get to the site, especially from the school, people coming in from work, they go from Santa Fe down Ziering. Once they hit Grattan and Ziering, there's no stop sign. And they fly around the corner from Ziering onto Story as they head south. There's no stop sign there at Hillsdale to keep them slowing down. There's all kinds of children playing in the streets back there. Again, these have all been known as courts and dead-end streets. So the families are used to having their kids play in the streets constantly. They're riding their bicycles, they're playing basketball out there, they're playing football in the street. It's a sleepy community. But my concern is those that are coming in and out of work and then going to and from the schools. They're all going Ziering and Story right there on the corner. If we could take a look at possibly making that corner a 3-way stop so that we can slow the traffic, I'm telling you, they fly down Ziering. and they fly onto Story Road. They come from Monte Vista, and they fly all the way down. I just think that there needs to be some more traffic control. Again, I'm not opposed to the actual lots or coming on. It's the traffic control that I'm concerned with.
It's a much more trafficked intersection than Story and Kersey, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Kersey has no traffic whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Okay, we are back at the board now for more discussion. And we'll look for some comments, questions, discussion. I'm just going to, if I could just jump in really quick here. It's always hard when we have a neighborhood that's kind of sleepy, like we've referred to it here, and then some more houses come in there, and I understand the concerns and questions everybody has. I mean, it is an infill development surrounded by residential at this point, and so it's not like it's a brand-new area, but that's probably where the concern is, because it's been this way for a long time for everybody. But like I said, it's traffic concerns we can deal with. We can figure out how to make those work. And you'll find out more as the project happens and the traffic starts to happen there. And then rather than try to do things before, I think it's always better to let these things, if they're going to happen, that they happen. And then from there, you can have better data to make decisions on what areas need to be adjusted and things you need to do. So again, infill development surrounded by residential, like I said, the MAC approved it, the Planning Commission, everybody approved it. Some of the conditions or issues that people had have been solved, like we talked about the 2-story down to 1-story, which is great, and the fencing sounds like that was taken care of. So I guess I'm just saying I support this, and once this thing gets going, I'm sure more tweaks will happen to it as needed with traffic and things like that. So something that I could support. Anybody else?
I kind of, right along with you, Supervisor, Mr. Chairman, I support this project for the same reason you just said, but I wish there was a way we could make it, the storm basin, a little more appealing than, it just always brings the neighborhood down when you have that. I wish there was a way we could do that.
Angela, do you want to address the storm basin requirements?
Yeah, the storm basin won't have turf, but we are hoping very much that it will be an attractive basin. It will have cobble and it will have vegetation that will be in the form of drought-tolerant plants. And the Denair MAC has been very vocal over the last couple of years of requesting that all landscaping be drought tolerant. They have also requested to review the landscaping plan because aesthetics are very important to them. So no, it will not have turf, but we do believe that it will be an attractive basin. We are looking for it to be an attractive basin. It will not be fenced off from view, so we are not going to end up with a fenced off hole in the ground that we have right now, which is very unattractive. And it will be improving the condition with the existing basin on the off-site property. So we do think it will be an attractive basin at the end.
So the existing basin will be improved from, I'm assuming this is it, right, that we're looking at right here.
Correct. We strive not to create new basins that look like the one that is in front of you right now. Right. That is an old standard.
And that old one will be upgraded, it sounds like.
Yes.
As part of this project. Okay. Any other questions?
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so a couple of things. I just want everyone to know, these are all the emails and responses back and forth. I tried to categorize them. That I've received a lot of interest in this, both for it and against it. I first want to thank the MAC board. I see Sam out here, one of the MAC members from Denair. It's never any fun when you don't actually have the power. They're advisory boards, but you essentially take the complaints. But the MAC board serves a great purpose. Although I don't attend all the meetings, I usually have a representative. Megan from my office is there, and I try and show up every 2 or 3 meetings, maybe every third meeting, because they get the pulse, and I hear from the MAC members as to what the community, what the complaints are, what the things they like, and they've been very involved. And I can tell you one of the most functional MACs is the most functional MAC that I have in my district, without a doubt. There's always pretty decent attendance. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for doing that. There was also a complaint about elected versus appointed boards, which we had taken up, MAC boards, and I think I had the clerk recorder go back to 1997, and there was never an election through 2021 when they changed it. So the MAC board had determined, not the Board of Supervisors, the MAC boards individually determined whether they want to stay elected or appointed, and they chose at that time to be an appointed board. I think Wood Colony, Salida, and Empire are the three MACs that still remain as elected situations, but the vast majority of them don't have elections either, but they just want to have that ability. So I'm completely in support of whatever the MAC wants to do in that standpoint. What we have here is a project, and a known builder who has done work in Denair and does good work. I think he's tried to appease, but I love the method that Don has tried, and he's tried to make difference in the project, and he's made a difference in the project. I think 3 of his 4 concerns have been alleviated to some degree. There are certain components of any project you can't alleviate completely, but the job is to try and mitigate any responses, and I've said it before, NIMBY is not a reason to turn down a project, but there are concerns in projects that if you can't mitigate them to a certain point, then we look at denying the project. So this isn't what I consider an infill project, although it's open. I see all the concerns. It seems like that the builder has gone above and beyond. I'm okay with the 50%. We've done that before in other subdivisions, and that is a benefit I see to us. We have to meet our RENA regional housing needs numbers, which is really this, I'd call it arcane, but it's not arcane, but we have to have so many lots zoned for different types of housing, single family, low income, and it's very difficult for the county with the Measure E component, and then Salida has been removed. We used to use all the potential houses in Salida. So when we see, I know there's a housing crisis. I don't know if everyone else sees it, but when you have homes, and if you look on Zillow in this neighborhood, they're all $400,000 to $500,000 homes. That takes my kids out. And my kids are adults, and they don't have jobs that can afford a $500,000 house at 6% interest at this point without help. So we know there's a housing crisis, but that's statewide, nationwide. But it seems to be exacerbated here in California. So projects like this, built correctly, and it seems to me that this is a good map coming forward. I understand why people would want the folks to go out on Story. I don't blame you, but again, the county ordinance, the way it is today, it doesn't allow that, and there will be an impact on the folks on Romey for traffic in and out. So again, I accept that. I will take a look. Just so you know, Kelly, I'll take a look at zeroing. I know that there's traffic. I don't know if it warrants a three-way stop, but I'll have Public Works take a look at that. I think there's about 1,000 cars a day on there, which is not a huge number when you look at Gear Road and Hatch Road and Santa Fe, where you might have 15 to 20,000. But we'll take a look at it, and then we'll also, we're going to stay on staff about making sure that the MAC will probably keep us on task as far as the basin, trying to do as nice a job as we can on the basin. So with that, I'm in support of it. I hope the community, and Denair has some, I think we've got about 5 smaller subdivisions and 2 bigger ones, 4, maybe 4 and 2, that are proposed. One of them is outside of the actual community service district boundaries, and the other one's on Monte Vista, which are 60 houses, which trigger other things. And talking with Mr. Odom, who's the CSD executive director, I guess I'm going to call you, you're the boss, whatever it is. Your board's the boss. You're the, but you're the boss, and you have a 5th well planned. And Sigma, I sit on a Sigma board actually with Mr. Odom, and that's a concern. Water's a concern going forward, but I know that there's a turnout on that surface water treatment plant, the Stanislaus SRWA, and I always encourage Keys, Houston, and Denair that the long-term solution is surface water. It's not going to be, because of the constituencies with nitrates and TCP and the new constituents, arsenic, that they're finding. Wellhead treatment is very expensive and will continue to get worse. So getting surface water is the long-term solution. But I appreciate everyone in this. And again, to the folks that showed up with concerns, we hear your concerns, and the builder hears your concerns. But we do want the builder to be successful too. That's always a goal of mine, and because it's not like we have a bunch of people that are taking chances and going out and building houses in this community. So with that, I will go ahead and make the motion if there's no other comments.
Okay, any other comments before? I just want to thank you, Vito. I know we've all have these that have come through our districts where there's just not necessarily controversy, sometimes controversy, but just different opinions and different ideas and how to make the projects better. And I know you've worked like a dog on this to try to get to a spot that makes it work for everybody. So I very much appreciate your efforts. And we all know what you've gone through, because we've all had to go through it ourselves with different ones here to try to make something work that not necessarily everybody likes. So anyway, appreciate your efforts. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much. Thank you all for coming here. Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 7.1, acceptance of the county clerk recorder's register of voters certified statement for our 2022 election. Donna. Good morning, Donna. How are you?
Good morning. Fine. I think I'm clearing the room, but...
That's all right. Were you involved in certifying that ribbon, red ribbon, that we had, a presentation we had earlier?
Certifying?
Yeah.
No, I'm
Okay.
so sorry.
See, that election
I
was not
cannot-
certified, so,
I cannot say anything about those results.
yeah, so we'll have to look into that a little further. All right, thanks for being
I
here.
do know that if it's anything like real elections, you only have 5 days for your recount, though, so... But on to business. So good morning, Chairman Withrow and members of the board, CO Hayes, and County Council Bowes. I'm here to present the November 8th, 2022 general election certified statement of vote for acceptance and declaration of the results. Stanislaus County for the November 8th election had 282,393 eligible voters. 132,142 ballots were returned and counted for a 46.79 turnout. The way Stanislaus County has conducted elections, has changed over the past couple of years. And in doing that, it takes a community, or as I say a lot, an army, to conduct an election. So we now mail a ballot to every eligible voter. We have 11 days vote centers instead of polls, and some of those are only 4 days. So we partner with a lot of county departments. We hire hundreds of part-time employees and volunteers. But I wanted to thank the county departments that come alongside us and partner with us, and they include ITC, GSA, CSA, Parks and Rec, and the library. And I wanted to acknowledge my staff for all their dedication in the election process and the hard work they put in for every election to be successful. As pointed out today, there are a lot of questions about California elections and why it takes so long to count ballots. One thing I want to point out is in 2014, a Senate Bill 29 was passed, giving counties 30 days to conduct their election. Prior to that, we had 28. So counties have always taken several weeks after the election to process ballots. And thank you, Mr. Morrow, because it's true, most counties do receive thousands of ballots on the Monday before election and on election day. In Stanislaus County, we received over 50,000 ballots in those 2 days. Then you receive thousands of ballots after the election. So a county could potentially receive half the ballots that they're going to process in that time frame. Those ballots have to be processed with the same scrutiny that any other ballots that we received are, with their signatures being verified, their sorted, opened, flattened, and then counted. So that takes a long time to do all of that. There's also some other laws that have been put into place, let's say that. A ballot is timely if it's postmarked on Election Day and received up to 7 days after the election. For the November 8th election, that was Tuesday, November 15th, so we received ballots up till Tuesday, November 15th. The law requires also that if those ballots are received, a vote-by-mail ballot, if it's missing the signature on the envelope, or if the signature during the comparison process is challenged, that a voter must be sent a cure form. Those cure forms have to be mailed 8 days prior to certification, and they're also used for any provisional ballots that were received, and those are not processed till all vote-by-mail are done. So if everything aligned and you received a ballot on the 7th day and had to have a cure form, the earliest you could possibly certify an election was November 23rd, which is the day Stanislaus County certified its election. So we certified the earliest day possible for us with all the laws in place. So one thing I wanted to point out about this election, prior to the election, anytime I went out and talked, I wanted to encourage people to come out and vote. And by doing that, I talked about how important every vote is, how important every vote counts, and how one vote can make a difference. And if you look at the certification of the vote, in Turlock Unified School District, Area 6, this race was won by one vote, 1,242 to 1,241. How important that one vote really was. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Very good. Thanks, Donna. Any questions for Donna? Comments? Vito?
Yeah, for sure. So we had a comment at last week's board meeting from someone that was talking about the slow counting, and I think it was the chairman that we had talked afterwards, and we were reminiscing about how I've seen you walk people through on a continual basis, people who might have a concern. I mean, we have an election observer, but someone who might have a concern in how the processing occurs. And it seems like every time someone actually goes through and sees and hears what you just said about the earliest certification, and I looked on the SOS website, the Secretary of State's website, and I think there were about 3 or 4 counties that certified on the same day. So we were ahead of most of the vast majority of the counties. There's still outstanding ballots today. And so if you go on unprocessed ballots on the Secretary of State's, go to elections, hit unprocessed, you can still see what's out there. Doesn't mean they didn't complete their vote by mail, but it means they haven't completed the arduous task of checking provisionals and the harder part of the election.
Correct.
And so I'm in awe of the job you guys do. I truly believe that every vote counts and every vote is counted in this county, and I'll stick up for you anytime. And we should challenge people that when they say something contrary to that, we should ask them to contact Donna and get a tour during election time. Not that you're not overwhelmed already, but I think it's amazing how generous you are with your time in doing that, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I did talk to that gentleman and pointed out that we don't have another large election until March of 2023, but I would appreciate him to come in and have a tour of the office. So he's going to do that.
Very good. Thanks, Chance.
Yeah, Don, I just want to applaud you for your leadership and your staff's efficiency. You guys have done a great job, and I believe you will continue to do a great job. I have been an election night observer. I've witnessed it firsthand. And you guys are exceptional, and you guys always are looking out for the integrity of our elections. And so again, I just want to applaud you and thank you for all you do in your service for our community and for our election process.
Thank you.
Who's our election observer?
I got the privilege of being the election observer this time around in November of the election, and it was a very encouraging process, encouraging as far as just being a voter in Stanislaus County, how efficient it was, the checks and balances. There was about 8 of us that were walking around, and I happened to take out my cell phone, and 7 of them told me, like, you can't have your cell phone here. So it's a very efficient process. And the results, once they're uploaded, certified, you get to see it real time when they upload them on one computer, and then it goes on our stand vote update, and that was interesting to see how fast and all the steps that are taken to make sure that they're all the results are sent to the Secretary of State's office prior to being posted here on Stand Vote. So it's quite a process, and your team does a very good job, and you do a great job of overseeing that, so can't be more appreciative of how well that's ran.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Manny Buck.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Donna, thank you for you and your team for doing such an outstanding job. I didn't have one complaint come to my office this year about anything to do with elections, and I appreciate that, and just a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Buck and Donna. Just repeating what everybody else says. You do a great job there. In 12 years I've been here, Lee, before you know, just the confidence is always there. Of course, I've always won, so I always thought the elections were correct. but we very much appreciate what you do. And it seems like the standard we always get, you always hear about Florida, you know, but Florida has different laws. They have different things going on there. And we have to deal with the cards we're dealt with here in California. And you just do that exceptionally. And so thank you very much for what you do, and we appreciate another election down.
Yes, yay.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? All right, Donna, thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we move on to correspondence.
Don't they have to, you have to
Oh, do we have to accept it? Oh, I thought it was just, okay, we'll look for a motion.
Motion to accept certified election results, statement of the vote of 2022 general election for November 8th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. It's very good. What would happen if we hadn't accepted the election?
Would we
I guess
go to
that
jail?
happens.
Nobody would.
Yeah, I guess that happens. It has happened in Arizona, I think.
I request for a remotion.
Okay, Donna, thank you. Correspondence now.
This board has received the correspondence and claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Any Board of Supervisor reports? Manny?
Yes, this past Tuesday, because of the election in November 8th, the Board of Supervisors all went to the Modesto City Council swearing-in ceremony for 3 new council members, and it was also 2 council members leaving, one of them being Jenny Canoyer, who many of you know has done many wonderful things here for the city of Modesto, but also in StanCog, Stanislaus Regional Transit Authority, so many different things, alongside with Councilmember Madrigal. Want to congratulate, again, the 3 new council members, Jeremiah Williams, Eric Alvarez, and Nick Bavaro. Both Supervisor Withrow and I got to speak, but I know all the supervisors were in attendance. Also, it was a rainy celebration of lights here in the city of Modesto, but again, very enjoyable. Supervisor Withrow and I toughed it out. We drove in a pickup truck, whereas many other people drove in a covered car, and we had a great time. Supervisor Withrow had his grandchildren. I had my youngest. Supervisor Withrow tried to convince me to have cotton candy, but being married to a dentist, I politely didn't oblige to his request. But it was a great opportunity to see many people. It wasn't as busy as years past, understandably so with the weather, but it was still great to see many people that came out and started the holiday season with the holiday parade.
Yeah, that wasn't actually how the cotton candy thing went down. Manny bought the cotton candy for my grandkids. I had to explain to my daughter when I brought them home and they had blue all over their face that no, they didn't actually have any cotton candy. That was from, I'm not sure what else. So it got me in trouble with that, but that was great. Yeah, it was a great night. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
Vito?
So the same thing, Houston, we had a nice rainy parade. I didn't make the one in Turlock, I was out of town, but it was a lot of fun, and it's especially special in Houston right now because, as Chance had alluded to, was that yesterday? Maybe it was yesterday. We just had a special meeting yesterday. But Houston High School football team is playing for the state championship on Friday. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. So there was an added excitement. The football team was in the parade, and I could tell everyone showed up not to see the supervisor from District 2, but to root on the Huskies. Exciting times. They've never made it to a state final. I know that Central has. I know Escalon has. I think one of the Ripon Christian might have made it before. But this is really big for the town, a small town, and everyone has coalesced around. So excited for them and hope the best.
Game in Southern California or Northern? Where is it?
It's the game is in Houston.
In Houston, wow.
And tickets are limited because CIF controls it. The California Interscholastic Federation controls it. So when they go on sale, if I don't get it, I'm going on a ride out with the police department. I'm going to be doing security. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's great.
I'm coming up with backup plans.
Well, good luck. Good luck to Houston. That'll
Yeah.
be great. Very good. Okay, I think that's it. We'll move on to our legislative, fiscal, and management report. Chief Executive Officer Jody Hayes.
No specific items to report today, other than appreciation for yesterday's board workshop. I want to thank all of the board members for your participation all day long, as well as many members of the public who came out to have some interesting and good conversations to help inform our staff on some of our strategic steps going forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Okay, and before we adjourn, we're going to go into closed session. And Tom, you want to?
Yes. Yes, we have closed session this morning. We have two items. The first is sitting as the in-home supportive services public authority. The board will have a closed session conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency negotiators are Jody Hayes, Bert Dumfrey, Jennifer Wequez, and Tamara Thomas. Ryan Leop, and the labor organization is the In-Home Supportive Services, UDWA. The second item is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subdivision D1. One case there, Emma Marie Takar versus County of Stanislaus et al. It's in the Superior Court of California, County of Stanislaus, and the case number is CV 20003494. Appropriate for public comment at this point.
Okay, any public comment with regard to closed session? Seeing none, I want to thank Deputy Crowley for being here today. Appreciate that. And Corinne and Stephen, thank you guys for hanging out till the end. This meeting is adjourned.